My journey is very different in many ways, but the details differ, and perhaps my emotional experience of my circumstances are different from the lived experiences of the girls and women with whom I have spent time in the brothels in Mumbai. And as Ruchira is telling her story, my mind is populated with the specific words and phrases that describe the journey of, free girl child to prostituted woman, and the Karza being held behind a curtained room for the first 5 years, when all of the money that is, quote, earned off of the rapes to which she is subjugated goes straight to the pimp and the manager, and after that 5 years she's allowed to retain a little bit of her keeping. So my experiences are different, and my feelings and words are different, but there is something that we do share. My parents loved me very much, and I know that the parents who sell their children in some way love those children very much, and these are choiceless choices in their desperate circumstances. And when my parents abandoned and neglected me, they didn't do it because they woke up one day and said, hey, today is a very good day to mess up Ashley's life. Today is a great day to, ruin her childhood. They did it because they didn't know any better. And I have a firm conviction that when we know better, we do better. And we still have a lot of patriarchy in our world. And when we realize that anyone who has a relationship with a woman shares a woman's issues, women's issues will cease to be women's issues. They will become humanity's issues. And of course, it's very obvious next to quote Hillary Rodham Clinton from her very famous talk at Beijing, that women's rights are human rights. And so all of this is of a piece. And when my mother was broke and desperate and had a dream of becoming a famous singer, and really knew that my sister had this ineffable gift from God with a voice that to me is still not just the best of her generation, but one of the all-time greats of the 20th and now 21st century. And my dad called and said, hey, can the girls live with me? She said, no, but I'll give you Ashley for $2,700. And I was bought and sold. It wasn't because they didn't love me, that those were just the circumstances at the time. And it's very obvious to me why I'm an abolitionist, because I was bought and sold. It's very obvious to me why I care so much about ending sexual exploitation, because I experienced sexual exploitation as a child. And it's very obvious to me why we still have these competing narratives about what even constitutes slavery. I heard Senator Cory Booker recently from a stage at the Peace Ball in Washington, D.C., remind us that it used to be African Americans and their allies wouldn't necessarily say Constitution, because the Constitution of the United States said that they were only 2/5 of a human being, so they weren't fully in the Consta. So we didn't say the Constitution until they were granted the full dignity of citizenship, which, this is also and then when we talk about narrative, we talk about the importance of words, and words do matter. And so it is the modern slave trade. And just because that woman from Nepal is behind a curtain that isn't a locked door with bars through which she cannot physically pass, she is just as enslaved as someone who is held in shackles and chains. So all of this is of a piece.
I think that's so well put, because you're saying that slavery exists at multiple levels. It's not just about the woman who is seen to be a slave and is seen to be barred and in a cage, but there can be all kinds of other slaveries that exist, even where situations are supposed to be free.
And I have to pick up on that word seen, because this is the sleight of hand. We see it. It is right in front of us. And an expression that is often used when talking about slavery is hidden in plain sight. And of course, in the fantastic poem by Nina Donovan, which I had the great pleasure and honor of speaking at the Women's March in Washington, D.C., she talks about blacks in America are still in shackles and graves just for being black. And this is the really key part of that stanza. In front of people, we're all in front of each other, but some people see that melanin as animal skin.
Right.
And so when we can see our common humanity, and for me, the people who voted for Donald Trump are my fellow humans, and I love them, and they have something very important to say, to which I must listen. I must hear what is going on in their minds and in their hearts and in their lived experiences as my neighbors and as my family members, both biological and chosen, and human family, American family, because what they have to say really matters to them. And so if I have any decency as a citizen, it matters to me.
You know, what they say matters to you, and what you say should matter to them. So, you know, we are nasty women, right? The woman who speaks her mind, the woman seen in the public forum, is the nasty woman. And I know you read the poem out about I am a nasty woman. Now, what is this term